In a Republican House caucus that has a lot of powerful, scandal-ridden figures, the member with possibly the most serious allegations swirling around him is also one of the least known. The pressure is now building on Ohio Congressman Max Miller. This month, Mother Jones magazine obtained 2,000 pages of court filings and police reports related to Miller. Records detailing allegations of drug use by Miller, misogyny and verbal abuse, and violent behavior against multiple women, including his ex-wife, Emily Moreno. She's the daughter of Ohio Republican Senator Bernie Moreno. Last February, the documents show, Moreno took her and Miller's 2-year-old daughter to the ER with a broken collarbone. According to Mother Jones, police records show that Moreno told detectives that Miller had previously thrown hot water at her, shoved her, and held a gun to her head. Therefore, she couldn't rule out that Miller caused their daughter's fracture. A child protection specialist reviewing the case said the bruising around the fracture resembled a handprint. Moreno never filed a police report. Miller said the bruises might have come from a seatbelt. The investigation found insufficient evidence of a crime. But Moreno did tell detectives something she said her daughter told her, quote, "Daddy's house is scary." A spokesman for Miller referred Mother Jones to previous statements denying Miller has ever committed violence against women. Moreno's lawyer declined Mother Jones' request for comment. Now, Miller has represented Ohio's heavily Republican 7th District since 2023, after first holding several jobs in Donald Trump's first administration. Trump called him a great guy, supported his campaign for Congress. But multiple sources at the time told Politico that Miller's prior romantic relationship with former Trump press secretary Stephanie Grisham, remember her, ended when he pushed her against a wall and slapped her in the face in his Washington apartment. Miller denies those allegations. But in a column for the Washington Post, Grisham wrote that she had told Donald and Melania Trump she was abused by a fellow White House staffer and they didn't act on the information. To the contrary, she wrote in this column, knowing what he knows, Trump has endorsed my ex's bid for Congress. Now, as Miller runs for re-election, Republican lawmakers remain largely silent about these shocking allegations of violence. Nikki McCann Ramirez is a politics reporter at Rolling Stone, who took a look at this week at how Republicans are sidestepping questions about Miller's alleged conduct, and she joined me now. I got to say, I want to be very careful about what is and isn't established here. What are allegations? Again, he denies ever being violent towards women. But just to start on the last thing I said with Stephanie Grisham part, where, just to start with, you have essentially, she doesn't say his name, but she points the arrows at him. You have a former staffer who is on the record saying that she was abused and that she told Donald and Melania Trump about it and they did nothing and instead endorsed it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to point out that even though these are allegations, Max Miller kind of identified himself as the person Grisham was talking about in that memoir by countersuing. And later, now in the current dispute he's in with his ex-wife, once again, bringing up the claims made by Grisham and alleging that he had evidence that it had been made up. But I really want to stress, and I encourage everyone to read the Mother Jones piece, which is incredibly in-depth. These are not just allegations dating back to Grisham. The piece establishes a pattern of accusations dating back to when Miller was in high school. This is a very established figure and a very established problem that this member of Congress has had, not just in the last couple months, but over the last few years. As these allegations resurface and regain traction in the context of this race, there is now a clip circulating of fellow disgraced Congressman George Santos telling him on the floor of the House, "You're a wife beater." So again, allegedly, but in that instance, it was a bit of, the fraudster calling the kettle an abuser. But it seems like Republicans throughout the caucus have known for years that these allegations are out there and have kind of chosen to ignore them. Because as of now, there is no active ethics committee investigation. There is no real response from leadership about why this person has been allowed to remain a voting member of the caucus when other members have been removed for similar allegations.
I also just want to emphasize the other allegations coming from his ex-wife. First of all, this is not that it should matter either way, but this is the wife of a sitting Republican senator in the same state of Ohio, right? It's a fairly connected person. And the context of those police reports, this is not her talking to a reporter. It's not her making public. This is a private conversation she is having with the police when she is in the context of bringing her daughter with a broken collarbone to the hospital, in which she says that he pointed a gun at her head, threw her into a wall, and threw hot water on her. I mean, that, again, it doesn't mean it's true. These are allegations, but this is in a context in which this is not a person who is, attempting to destroy the reputation or publicly coming out with this. This is in the sort of most private, urgent possible context.
Absolutely. And especially when there's a child in the mix that is at risk. And I think the response House Majority Leader Mike Johnson gave last week was incredibly instructive, because we've seen Johnson in the past sort of deflect to questions about allegations related to members of his caucus by simply saying, oh, I haven't heard of that. As we were just discussing, this is something that is very well known within the Republican House caucus. Johnson essentially dismissed these reports by saying, oh, well, they're allegations. We've seen over the course of the last year, 2 members of the Republican House caucus be removed not via criminal convictions, but allegations of misconduct. Most recently, Tony Gonzalez, and then, of course, Matt Gaetz, a very infamous case.
Yep.
I think the thing here that we need to remember is that members of Congress are not entitled to their seats. The conduct you display in your home, allegedly to your ex-wife, to your children, that is not separate from your ability to serve in Congress. If you are allegedly committing abuse at home, especially within a party that claims to value the safety of women, children, and girls, and this is a story that is hanging over your head, it's not only that you're accountable to the voters that are going to cast their ballots in November in the midterms, you are accountable to the fellow members of your Congress, to your family, to the people who you have misled through your character.
I want to note, obviously, I misspoke before. It's his daughter, Emily Marino's daughter, not wife. I think I misspoke briefly. I want to just play what Mike Johnson said, because you've been reporting about the sort of sidestepping here, which I think is pretty disingenuous. Yeah. Johnson was confronted with this after the sort of Plattner story, and there's been some really upsetting abuse allegations at Corey Mills, who you're going to hear about here in this clip. Just to set it up, he's a Republican in Florida. He denies those allegations. He's also faced them. But take a listen to how Johnson tries to get out of it here.
These past 2 weeks, Democrats ditched Graham Plattner from their ballot after sexual assault allegations. 2 members of your conference, Max Miller and Corey Mills, faced domestic violence allegations. Why would you Republicans keep them in the conference, whereas Democrats are dropping somebody criminally accused of sexual harassment?
Well, the key word there is allegation. We have a process here. The House Ethics Committee works on those things. If allegations are made, they work through a process. So I'm not in the business of commenting on investigations as they're in process, and we'll see how that shakes out.
But am I right that there's no process right now for Miller? Right?
Yeah, no, as far as I can see, there is no ethics committee investigation currently taking place. And this is something we have seen Johnson do several times. When he doesn't want to make a decision about a member of his caucus who's been accused of misconduct, of fraud, of financial mismanagement, he kind of just defers to the ethics committee, which can stall investigations for a very long time.
Right. Yes, it's a really, really good point. It's been a useful thing for him to have in his back pocket. Nikki McCann Ramirez, thanks for joining us.